the TEFL Commute, Season 6, Episode 6, in which we wrap up our season with a little bit of fun. Hi everybody, my name is Lindsay Clanfield and I'm one of the hosts of the TEFL Commute. This is a podcast for language teachers that's not about language teaching, but the topic always seems to come up. This episode turned out to be something a little bit different. Shaun and I knew that this was the last episode of our season, and we record this usually around December, around the end of the year. And it's a time of year when a lot of people are thinking of a fun activity for class, trying to find a fun activity just before people break for the holidays or for Christmas or whatnot. And that got us thinking we'd been wanting to do an episode for a long time on the whole topic of fun. And when do language classes stop being fun and become real work? What is the line between work and fun? And a whole bunch of stuff. And Shaun wanted to interview somebody about this topic, someone who had been giving talks on this exact topic and asking some of the exact questions we'd been asking ourselves. And the interview turned out to be so interesting that we think it warrants an episode almost in and of itself. So for the rest of the episode, we're going to hear Shaun's interview with Diana England.
Okay, so I'm joined today by Diana England, who lives in Portugal, someone I've known for many years, Director of Studies of IH Dona Verdras, and now IH Lisbon Teacher Training Centre, because it's been an exciting year for her. And I'm talking to her because I began the year by watching her do a talk where she basically dismissed fun. She's done the talk a couple of times, and it's now got the enticing title of "Why Should We Be Taking the Fun Out of the Classroom?" So, Diana, hello, welcome to the podcast.
Morning. Hello.
So, we're doing this podcast. Christmas is coming, and social media is already getting full of teachers going, "Has anybody got any fun Christmas activities?" And kind of after having seen you talk for do this talk a couple of times, I kind of think, I wonder what Diana would say about that. So, let's get started. How do you feel when you see all these teachers going, "Have you got any fun activities for Christmas?" Is that something that makes you cringe?
Well, you makes me sound, if I'm going to say, I think I don't agree with it, there shouldn't be any fun in the classroom, makes me sound as if I'm a bit of a Scrooge, but I mean, I'm not. I think there's much more to teaching than just fun. But of course, at Christmas, you do want your students to have fun and to be going out to their last lessons on a high. So I've got nothing against with teachers asking for last lesson activities which are more light-hearted at all. But I do think that there is more to teaching than just fun in the normal scheme of things.
I guess, I mean, you're a teacher trainer, and one of the things that always annoys me in observations is when the teacher says, okay, let's do this exercise, then we'll move on to something fun.
Yeah, as if it's some kind of reward. They've had this kind of very painful learning experience, and if they behave themselves, or if they've worked well, so to speak, you're going to reward them with something that's just a bit light-hearted, cheap thrill fun.
So when you say we should be taking the fun out of classrooms, you don't actually mean like fun, full stop. So how would
absolutely not.
What's your definition of fun in this case? If we're saying we want to take the fun out of the classroom, how does fun define? Because I think for me, learning is fun when it's hard, but you don't mean that, do you?
Learning. Yeah, but what makes that sort of fun? It's not just a sort of a cheap laugh and a cheap thrill. It's a much deeper sense of fulfillment and satisfaction and a sense of achievement. I think that's what you mean or people might mean when they say that learning is fun when it's hard. But for me, why I suppose I react against teachers that say they want some fun activities is the is the fact that it can appear to be not principled, not particularly well thought out.
Right.
You know, they just want to grab something that may make them come across as a kind of a fun teacher that may get them kudos with their students.
That's interesting you said that. One of the things that I was reading on a lot of sites is that teachers do fun things because it makes them like.
Well, I suppose what I've been trying to do is to kind of tease out the difference between fun and enjoyment. You know,
Right.
they're not equal. They're of course there's overlap, but I do think there are differences. When I was preparing my session originally, I went to some dictionaries to find out some definitions of fun and enjoyment and some idiomatic uses of fun and enjoyment. Okay, so you've got examples like idiom, like it's not all fun and games, it was fun whilst it lasted, the kids made fun of her, time flies when you're having fun, we were only having a bit of fun, we went on a picnic just for the fun of it. Can you see that in those examples, this is very unscientific, but in those examples, you know, fun appears to be something that's sort of temporary, that it's trivial, light-hearted, that you know, it can be almost at the expense of someone else.
Right.
If you're not, you know, in those examples I've given,
I can see where you're coming from, but as I said, I was reading this study. The author of it basically said that fun is important because it's a social need. In all those examples of your idioms, it's kind of social need. It's the fun was there, but the social need that leads to creativity, it leads to people feeling comfortable, and even to take risks. And I was thinking, well, if I put that, I mean, they were talking obviously about fun in society there, but all three of those things, creativity, comfort, and taking risks, are attributes for the classroom, aren't they?
So, yeah, but I'd like to add in an important modal verb. It can lead.
Okay, right.
Can. There's nothing automatic, you know. I'm going to do a fun activity, therefore my students are going to be better risk takers. Therefore, you know, they're going to be bonding socially better with each other. In fact, you could argue, done badly or unthinkingly, it could be the exact reverse.
Absolutely.
Could result,
in fact, it reminds me that we go back to the observation. I tend to write in the observation notes when somebody says, "Okay, we're going to do a fun activity." My notes tend to say "fun for whom," because obviously fun is a very different thing. I'll pick up on something that you said. You were kind of mentioning fun and enjoyment. This paper that I read, it was very interesting because again, when they did the research with the students and they were getting the responses, there was like 80% of the students said fun and 50% of the students said enjoyment. And there was this one thing that resonated with me, because I know you, I'll get on to the point with you in a moment, but it was 2% of the respondents said they did not experience fun in the lessons, but they did experience enjoyment. And I think that reminded me of you again, because I remember clearly in your talk you made a very clear distinction between fun and enjoyment, which you kind of just mentioned. But could you tell us what that distinction is?
Yes, I think you know, as I said, on the one hand, you know, if we're going to be completely binary and black and white about this, on the one hand you've got fun, which at its worst can be a momentary cheap thrill, and on the other hand, at the other extreme, enjoyment is more long-term, giving a sense of satisfaction, of engagement, fulfillment, achievement. And if you think about, if you go back and think about your when you were at school and a teacher that you or lessons that you enjoyed, they might not have been teachers that were, you know, ostensibly loads that were funny. In fact, the funny teachers might, you know, have put your back up, you know, because maybe they were laughing at you. Whereas there's kind of lessons that you might remember are enjoyable, not because you were necessarily laughing, but because there was an inner sense of a deeper sense of fulfillment, I think, in the long run.
It boils down to psychology, in a sense.
Yes, absolutely. I think so. You know, and you were referring earlier to sort of the creative you said fun leads to social bonding and taking risks and creativity, and I said it can lead.
Yes,
Yes, this can is very much to do with the how we perceive things and how we deal with things psychologically. And Jack Lumby refers to Mihai Csikszentmihalyi's concept of flow experience. And this happens when people are absolutely engrossed in an activity, and the following conditions apply. So where they're completely engrossed physically and or mentally, their concentration is deep, they know what to do, how well they're doing, they're not worried about failing, time passes by quickly, and they're not distracted by problems outside the activity.
It's interesting because we were talking in the previous episode. We were talking about digital games, or like where we'd play digital games in the classroom or with students, and this concept comes up a lot. They get lost in the flow of the activity.
That's how I would. I think it's a question of ultimately of something being thought through, principled, where the activities that you choose are helping move the learning forward, rather than just as a class a mechanism for control and classroom management, or for buying students' favour, I suppose.
I get what you're saying. In a sense, one is actually short term and one is long term as well, by what you're defining there. It kind of leads me to, again, some more of the reading I was doing. Presumably a UK state school teacher called Chris Hildrew. He has a blog called Teaching and Leading Learning, and he's got this really interesting blog post called The Importance of Enjoyment. And in that, and I'll just see if I get the quote right. He said, "Enjoyment needs to be nurtured, or it will flicker and fail." I presume a sentiment that you would agree with, yeah?
Absolutely. And you can't just sort of. That's why I suppose I would question a teacher that might say, "Can I have something? Have anybody got something fun I can do with my teenagers?" And I might be thinking, well, are the rest of your lessons boring?
But I guess it's a psychological thing and a teacher thing, because I've made my students do this grammar exercise on the passive. Let me, as you said before, reward them with a fun activity.
Yeah, and in terms of the nurturing, I mean, that implies that you have an interest in your students as individuals, not as just language learners, but as people, that you're looking at them and thinking, what is the thing that seems to motivate them, that's the thing that they seem to enjoy, and what sort of turns them on in terms of the language learning process or the learning process. And you're then providing activities, devising activities in the classroom or tasks that will help them towards this sense of enjoyment and achievement. And it's not just a one-off thing; it is an ongoing thing.
Okay.
Come back to something you were saying. Even the most apparently boring activity can be made enjoyable. For example, a keyword transformation. Of course, it can be extraordinarily boring just to get students to do keyword transformations in class.
Hold on. Let's just define keyword transformations for people that might not know what they are.
Okay, so imagine, for example, in a Pet for Schools activity, or a first certificate use of English, where you've got a first sentence and then a second sentence with a gap. Right. And you have to complete the gap with a number of words, so that the second sentence has a very similar meaning to the first sentence.
I get it. Right. Yeah. Okay. Thanks. So you're talking. So you're talking about how to make these more enjoyable. Yeah.
Yes. I mean, you can, obviously, to be the most boring, the students do it individually, and then you just go through the answers with the students. Alternatively, to make it more enjoyable, you could get the students to work through it individually, and then get the students to test each other to see if, so student A reads out the first sentence, and then student B has to see if they can remember what the second sentence is, and if they get it completely right, then they award themselves a point. So it becomes a collaborative, competitive activity.
Right.
That's just one simple example of how you. Another example might be of playing Beat the Teacher, where the teacher has, for example, a list of words that they think the students won't remember or won't know how to spell, and on the board the teacher writes a little grid with two columns, the teacher's name in the first column, and then you, meaning you plural, the students, in the second column. And every time the student, for example, the teacher gives a definition of the word, and then if the students can get the right word, then they get a point. If they get the word wrong, then the teacher gets a point. If the teacher wants them to spell the word and they spell it correctly, they get the point, and vice versa if they misspell it. And students love that kind of playing against that. For me, that's a positive means of competition, because the person that's likely to lose, hopefully, is going to be the teacher. Because that shows that there's good learning there.
Although if you're like me and ultra competitive, you're not going to let the students win whatever.
Changing a kind of a simple spelling or vocab test into something that's fun, but there's a deeper sense to it. I think it's related to the topics that the lexis that they've been studying. It's building social bonding, but not against each other, but against the teacher, if you like. And so I think that in that respect, there's a sort of a sense of enjoyment as well.
So going forward, so basically, then I could just write down all the Christmas words that I want to introduce into the lesson, and my Christmas lesson could be that.
That exactly one idea indeed. Here you go.
Okay, so we're coming full circle then. So we're not really taking the fun out of Christmas. We're just changing it so it's slightly more long term and more enjoyable as part of the learning process. Is that what we're agreeing on?
Yeah.
Fair enough. It's okay. It's a really interesting chat we're having here. But in the interests of the commute, we should draw it to an end. So I started with Christmas is coming. And we started with the idea that teachers are looking for fun activities. I presume in your staff room, then you provide them with lots of enjoyable activities.
Absolutely, hopefully. Anyway, yes. I can just give you a couple.
Please, please do.
Yeah. So this is quite an easy activity to do. So there are lots of Christmas, jokes, little two-line jokes, like obvious ones to us. How many letters are there in the alphabet? 26. No, there's 25 because the angel said Noel. That's variety, this is suitable for like a B1 level upwards. You can find lots of loads of these jokes on the internet, and you can select them according to the actual level of your students, and get the students to match the first part of the joke with the second part of the joke. I've done that as a mingling activity where they've got the different parts of the joke on cards, and they find their partner, and then they practice their joke, they rehearse it, memorize it, and then they act out, if you like, their joke to their peers, the other people in the class, for them to groan and laugh. You can also get the students to video themselves telling those jokes as well. So that's one exercise that you can do. Of course, and another activity I've done with a higher level advanced students. The game of Happy Families, presumably.
Yep.
Yeah.
Do you have a Mr. Baker?
Yes, that's right.
Yes.
So there's a shop in the UK called the Early Learning Centre.
Yes, yeah.
And they sell Happy Family games, but they are based on Christmas features and Christmas characters.
Right.
So there's Holly, there's Christmas cake, there's Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer, there's Santa Claus, etc., etc. But it's very Western, very UK based. And I have a lesson plan where I show the students those cards, and you can do the vocabulary in terms of those cards, and then give the students this situation that the company that makes these cards wants to create a set of cards that's more suitable for, well, in my case, Portuguese people.
Yeah.
So the kind of images and icons of Christmas that are more relevant to Portuguese people. And so I divide the class into groups, and they have to decide on 8 different icons relevant to Portugal. Some of them, of course, will have an overlap, like Father Christmas will inevitably appear in many different cultures. But there are other aspects, that, for example, the food or other traditions that will be different. So they decide on the 8 different icons. They decide on the rationale. They have to justify as well as actually design them, and then they present to the other people in the other groups. They present their they pitch, basically. They pitch their decisions, and then we vote on which is the best set of cards.
Nice one. It's that's a whole lesson kind of project, isn't it?
Absolutely. It can link into people that are doing for a certificate, or people who are studying towards advanced as well, in terms of those speaking part 3 collaborative tasks.
Yeah, brilliant.
Got to explain, agree, disagree, justify.
Not only has this been a really enjoyable interview, I avoided the word fun there, but you've also provided us with the end of pod activities already. So that's saved us work. That's brilliant. So on that note, thank you so much for joining us, Anna. A really interesting conversation. Have an enjoyable Christmas, and I know that
and a lot of fun as well. Have some fun as well.
Okay, I'll try. Thanks for your time. Bye.
Bye.
Okay, we're back. Well, I'm back at least, and I'm joined again by Shaun. Thanks very much, Shaun.
Hi. Yeah, it's weird just to come in at the end of an episode. I know.
We're trying new things.
I know.
We're trying new things here.
Innovation in Series 6. Who would have thought it?
I know. Tell me about it. Well, we are innovating to a certain extent, but I know that you thought that a season of TEFL Commute, especially approaching towards the holidays and the Yuletide time, would not be complete without you subjecting me, I repeat, to some seasonal jokes.
Well, actually, you'd have got away with it, but of course Diana brought it up in her interview, and she was talking about how this was how jokes were.
I know. So as soon as I heard that, my heart began to sink, and so I thought I'm not going to escape. I thought, I don't know if we'd even done it for the whole.
No, I don't think we have. But there was this moment of, I can do jokes with Lindsay, and it's got a purpose. It fits into it. So here we go then, Lindsay. Right, seasonal jokes. These are all jokes, and I did. They're not just any jokes. These, according to the dailypost.co.uk, are the funniest cracker jokes of the moment. Okay.
Oh my God, cracker jokes. Okay, let's just explain to people, if you're listening and you aren't aware of a Christmas cracker, you want to gloss it a little bit there. A Christmas cracker there, Shaun?
A Christmas cracker toilet roll with a joke in the middle, wrapped up, that you have on Christmas dinner. There you go. How's that?
That's right. Wow, a toilet roll. It's a bit of cardboard wrapped up, and people pull it. I mean, I say this because living in Spain, no one ever has seen crackers here, and my wife's family in France had not seen them either. Anyway, you pull it, it makes a kind of crack sound. You got a little paper hat that you put on your head, maybe a little crappy toy, and most importantly, for this case, is a little piece of paper, like a fortune cookie style paper, but with a joke on it.
Yeah, although, of course, the cracker is just a precursor to the Christmas Day fun, which is how long, or who can keep the hat on the head the longest.
Who can keep the hat on the head, and who can tell the worst joke?
All right, worst jokes.
Oh my God.
So here we go. What do snowmen wear on their heads?
horns, Christmas hats.
Snowmen. Snowmen. He said horns. So, Lindsay, obviously, ice caps. Here's a political Christmas cracker joke. How will Christmas dinner be different after Brexit?
No champagne. No French tea.
No Brussels. You're almost there. No Brussels.
No Brussels sprouts. Okay, that's actually not too bad. Okay, that's good. That's good.
I got my one. What did Adam say the day before Christmas?
Something. Oh, where's Eve? Is it Eve? No.
Oh no! Yeah, you're almost there. Well, I love the fact you've started trying to work these out. So, what did Adam say the day before Christmas? It's Christmas, Eve.
I haven't even had the benefit of a Christmas dinner to like help these go down, or hot wine, or brandy, or anything. Okay.
I've got quite a long list. I'll do a couple more for you. Let's have a look then. Why did no one bid for Rudolph and Blitzen on eBay? Two reindeer for listeners. Why did no one bid on Rudolph and Blitzen on eBay?
Something to do with red noses? No, I don't know.
No, because they were too dear. Come on.
Oh my God. Okay.
Last one.
All right.
What goes oh. And that's OH. Oh.
Oh, it's like Santa Claus, like.
Oh, nearly Santa walking backwards. There you go. Cracker jokes.
Oh my god. All right. I think we're done. Are we done, guys?
I think on that we're probably done, aren't we? So have a good festive season, everyone, and we'll see you for season 7 in the new year.
Yes, indeed, everyone. Happy New Year. Happy holidays. And have a good one, everybody. See you next year.
As your commute is coming to an end, here is an activity you can take into the classroom. Well, actually, since Diana mentioned a number of activities, your end of pod activity is to use one of them. To help you, Diana has given us a lesson plan for her Happy Families game. You can download it from our website, TEFLcommute.com. You've been listening to the TEFL Commute, an original podcast produced and presented by Lindsay Clanfield, Shaun Wilden and James Taylor. Don't miss out on any episodes by subscribing to us on iTunes and by visiting us at TEFLcommute.com.
Oh.